Hello, and thank you for joining Newgen's webinar on handling PPP loans and our LOS, handling the Economic Aid Act. My name is Michael Fondesi. I'm on the Products and Solutions team here with Newgen. I'll be taking us through the overview of the solution for the webinar here. Now, before we get started, I just wanted to touch on a few things that we know so far. So, of course, we've all seen and are aware of the fact that $284 billion has been approved by Congress and signed into law. Now, for this reopening of the PPP lending this round, these loans are only going to be available until March 31st or until funds are depleted. Of course, we certainly expect that those funds are going to be depleted before that March 31st date. So really important to have a solution and be prepared for the lending to open up back fully here. Now, along those lines, something that's not listed here, we have seen the beginning of this week that first draw loans were open there for any CFIs beginning on Monday. And then we saw this expanded to second draw loans for CFIs on Wednesday. We certainly are all gearing up here to go live for the full opening of the lending applications here, starting on Tuesday here in line with the SBA. So Newgen does have customers live that are CFIs. So we have already gone live here with those customers and are definitely prepared to go live here beginning on Tuesday once everything's fully opened up. Now you can see here also there's going to be an expansion here on the eligible expenses that are going to be there. So operations, property damage, supplier costs, work protection expenditures, and that we are able to, as I kind of just mentioned here, have applications from not just new applicants, but also previous PPP recipients. So they have to be qualifying there for having 300 or fewer employees, if they'll have to attest to having used or will use their full PPP loan, and being able to show a gross revenue decline here in the first, second, or third quarter in 2019 compared to 2020. So all these guidelines that we're seeing here from the SBA that I just mentioned here, in addition to expanding the maximum loan amount to up to 3.5 times the average monthly payroll costs versus the 2.5 times for those 72 NAICS codes. All these are going to be incorporated here into the solution that Newgen has been able to start to go live with here. Some additional changes there, of course, so we're going to be expanding to eligible businesses to include 501c6 businesses, so business leagues, chamber of commerce, those types of entities. And something that's kind of been updated here in this round is that we've seen from the SBA that there's not going to be a real-time loan number generation from eTrans. So a little bit of a change from the previous rounds of lending where we're going to have to go ahead and submit the data over to the SBA. They're going to do their review. This may take 1 day, 2 days, or even longer. So the point is it's not going to be in real time, but there is going to be a little bit of delay here in getting that loan number back. Now, one of the things we kind of wanted to touch on before we jump into the walkthrough of the solution here is some key factors that are there for successful PPP lending when you're considering any vendor that's out there in the market. So certainly speed is very important here. So you want to be able to go ahead and allow your applicants to apply as quickly and efficiently as possible. You want to be able to go ahead and have an efficient system for review, and then ultimately be able to go ahead and submit all this data over to the SBA. So having those funds are kind of having the program structured in a way where it's going to be up when the funds are depleted or until March 31st, which again, we certainly expect those funds to go prior to March 31st. So speed is definitely of great importance here with any vendor that you're going to be considering. Of course, user experience is incredibly important. So not just your customers or your members' experience as they're going through the process, but also your internal user experience. So when it comes to your customers and your members, certainly you would want to provide a first-in-class experience to them. A lot of times, depending on your approach here for lending, this may actually be your first experience or your first interaction with these borrowers. So giving them that good experience through the process is really important. And when it comes to your internal employees, having that organized, efficient manner of being able to handle and manage the PPP loans is incredibly important. We've seen with a lot of financial institutions that a lot of the people working on the PPP loans here are certainly have their own regular duties, and this has kind of been something additional that they've been tasked with. So it's really helpful to have a nice system in place for that. Now, any vendor that you're going to consider should certainly have credibility. So someone that has proven implementations, as well as those client references that can really kind of attest to the benefits and the stability of that platform. Now, flexibility is certainly important when considering any vendor on the market. So a platform that's out there that's going to be able to provide that consistent experience to align with your your branding guidelines, your coloring scheme. So the customers don't feel that they're being handed off from one system to another. Just having that consistent experience there, as well as being able to accommodate any of those changes that are going to be coming down the road from the SBA. So we've kind of seen in the previous rounds of lending, the SBA is going to be releasing changes, updates, IFRs going forward between now and the end of the lending cycle here. So having that platform that's able to quickly adapt to any of those changes to make sure that you're still being able to accept and process these PPP loans is really important. Now, communication kind of goes hand in hand there with user experience. So having the ability in the platform to have the communication ability. So just kind of keep your customers and members aware of what's going on in the process, where they stand, any updates or requirements that are needed from them to make sure that their loan is successfully submitted. Now, finally, compliance, of course, is important with anything here that we're talking about. So having a system that's there that makes sure that you're collecting validated information that's in the correct format, the ability to go ahead and submit this data electronically versus manually really helps to also reduce any errors and duplications here throughout the process. Now, just before we jump into a walkthrough of Newgen's, the screens of our solution, just wanted to give a little bit of an overview of the process and the approach here. So, of course, Newgen's solution is built on our business process management platform. So this is the same low-code platform that we use for all of our banking solutions. So, we have some customers that are using us for multiple banking solutions, and so we're able to provide that in one single platform. And this platform does include enterprise content management capabilities, really built right into the system. So the key here is that we are able to completely digitally transform the life cycle of the PPP loan. So here you can see in the overview of the process that we do include as part of the solution, obviously the channel for the application submission. So this is going to be an online portal that allows the applicants to go ahead and initiate the applications, collect the right information, and then submit the application online. And this is going to be a portal that links on your website. It's going to match your logos, your coloring scheme. So it gives that consistent experience kind of moving through the pages on your website. Now, the online application is a pretty straightforward process there. So the portal does provide the ability to perform an eligibility check on the borrowers before they even go through and start to submit an application, doing any of the calculations. And the borrowers are guided through the eligibility criteria and the loan calculations there on the portal. Now, the portal does have the ability to go ahead and pre-fill existing borrower data. So if they had existing PPP borrowers, you'll be able to turn that data over to us. We'd upload that in the system, and this kind of provides a little bit more of a frictionless, easier experience for them to not have to rekey data that they've already been providing to it. Now, the online portal also, of course, serves as a channel for submitting any documentation, capturing signatures. So we'll be able to have that here incorporated throughout the process. Now, once the applications are initiated, they'll be visible in the back office interface of the solution. And this is going to be a queue-based system that allows your lenders to go ahead and perform the required due diligence, maybe your 1 or 2 steps of approval, and then directly submit the application over to the SBA. Now, this submission of the data over to the SBA does happen in real time using Newgen's API-based integration with the SBA. So rather than taking 30 or 40 minutes to go ahead and manually enter all of the loan details, all this information and data can be submitted to the SBA really in just a matter of seconds. We kind of saw in the previous rounds of lending that the API-based integration was really the most successful method. We saw that some institutions kind of wanted to go with the BOD or RPA method, which ended up kind of being shut down by the SBA. It really created some problems with those financial institutions that kind of went that route. I kind of noted this in the previous slide, one of the previous slides, that we have seen, just to kind of note here, that the SBA said that this is not going to be a straight through processing of the loan applications this time around. So it's just something to keep in mind, that it's going to be a little bit of a change from last time, but we still have that API-based integration for the transmission of data in both directions. As for the documentation, Newgen can integrate with Laser Pro to go ahead and upload the data to Laser Pro, generate the documents, and then those documents can be ingested back into the system. Additionally, the solution does have built-in document generation capabilities to generate documents based on kind of like a template. So for example, the promissory note, lender application form would be able to go ahead and generate those directly from our solution itself. I kind of alluded to this a little bit ago, but of course we also have e-sign integration capabilities. So as part of this particular solution, we are offering integration with DocuSign as well as Adobe Sign to be able to go ahead and capture the electronic signature for any of those documents that would be required. Now, while Newgen can integrate with any core system, we aren't proposing to integrate with the core for this solution specifically, simply as a time-saving aspect. You will still have all the data that's there in the system in one consolidated place. And of course, this data is yours. You'll be able to export it, have that on hand to be able to go ahead and manually book into the core. The kind of the decision there is that core integrations certainly do take some time, and given the kind of fast-paced timelines that we're seeing with this, with the loan applications are going to be coming in, with those funds being depleted, having that core integration really just kind of serve to prolong the time to go live there. Now, additionally, by using the solution, we do, again, it's built on our BPM platform with all of our solutions. So the provision for handling loan forgiveness, the loan forgiveness part of the process will be there. So yeah, again, since this is all built on the same platform, you're gonna have all that data residing in the same place, and it makes this a pretty easy, fluid process to go from the lending side to the forgiveness side of the process here. And again, since this is built on our BPM platform, it does have real-time reporting and monitoring capabilities built right into the system. So you're going to have all that data on hand that can be used for reporting purposes. So you're going to have insights into the number of loans, how many loans are at given stages, the values of the loans. So you're really able to kind of break down and slice and dice that information as you would want to be able to see it. Additionally, as I mentioned, this is your data. You'd be able to go ahead and export the data to, maybe if you're using some BI tools, things like that. Of course, that data is there. It can be exported for that as well. So let's go ahead and start to walk through some of the screens of the solution. So here's just kind of a sample that we have here of what the solution would look like here. And actually, let me rephrase that. We do have a live solution in place, but we'll just be walking through the screenshots here. So to kind of begin the process, we're just going to capture some of the basic details here of the borrowing entity, just to make sure we capture all the primary information, email address, phone number, things like that. Make sure we have that on hand in case they kind of drop off throughout the process. Be able to have that save and resume functionality to be able to follow up with them. So all that data is there right at the beginning. Of course, we're going to start to capture the purpose of the loan. Again, this is aligned to the SBA's guidelines. You'll see that as we walk through the solution, we're going to have various help buttons throughout the process, just to kind of help provide guidance for the borrower, just so they don't have any confusion on what certain points of the application are asking for, provides context for them, so it really kind of helps them through the process. Now, after we capture the basic information, we're going to do an eligibility check on the borrower here. So they would just go through the series of questions just to kind of confirm that they are even eligible for a PPP loan. And so what we're doing here is making sure that they go through all the questions, or the points of eligibility. And if they do answer a question that's out of line with the SBA's requirements, we would just give a message to them to let them know that they are not qualified for the loan. On the back end, we are able to go ahead and also generate that Reg B notification. So that capability is there as well. Now, assuming they go ahead and answer all of the initial questions in line with the SBA's guidelines, we'll start to capture some more information from them here. So if they were operational on February 15th, if they have any franchise information, if they have any affiliate information, if they were going through this and this was a second draw loan, we also capture, what quarter that they are referencing here for having reduced revenue, and then they'll be able to go ahead and enter that data here, just to, again, confirm that they do fall within the eligibility criteria for the program here. Now we also include the ability to capture the alternate size requirement. So maybe if they do not qualify under the SBA's definition, they still have the ability to go ahead and enter that alternate size requirement data there as well. Now moving forward in the process, we're going to capture a little bit more information here. So if they were operational for any 12-week period through the program guidelines here, if they were a seasonal business, and then what we're doing here is providing the borrower with a worksheet that's going to go ahead and assist them with calculating the average monthly payroll costs. So this is going to be kind of a tool for them to make sure they're able to organize and calculate their average monthly payroll costs, to then be able to calculate how much or the maximum loan amount that they would actually qualify for. So we do provide the various sheets, worksheets here, depending on the business's scenario, the business type, if they're seasonal or not. So they'll be able to download that worksheet and then enter that data here. Of course, throughout the whole application form, we do have those form level validations built in just to make sure that we are capturing the right information, the right format. So here's just one example where the borrower is trying to request an amount that is in excess of what we've already calculated that they would qualify for. So they're not going to be able to go through, submit incorrect information here as we move through the process. Of course, if they would like to request a smaller amount, so for kind of using this example here, would they qualify for $245,000? If they wanted to request a smaller amount, of course, they could request that smaller amount. So for example, if they wanted to request just maybe $150,000 just to kind of make the process easy for them, they do have that option as well. Now the online portal is dynamic, so depending on the responses by the borrower, the form's going to automatically change to only capture the relevant data fields. So we're only going to make sure that we're capturing the fields and data points that would be pertinent to that particular borrowing entity. Kind of helps you on the financial institution side to make sure you're capturing, for example, a social security number versus a TIN. So things like that kind of helps along with the process. Moving through, we'll be able to capture the ownership information. So we're going to capture any individuals that own 20% or more of the business, or any individuals or entities that might have a controlling interest. So be able to go ahead and capture that information there as part of the application flow. You'll also be able to indicate the ownership percentage, titles, if they are an authorized signer or not. So that capability is there to have multiple authorized signers, and it's able to accommodate the various scenarios where maybe they do have some type of interest but are not authorized signer. You're able to indicate that through here. Now moving on through the application, of course, we do incorporate the ability to capture the CRA and demographic information. So we do make this optional, as it is an optional component of the SBA application. So the ability is there to just go ahead and skip this. This can also be just collapsed here as part of the application, but we do want to incorporate it there as it is part of the application itself. Now, towards the end of the process, of course, we'd be able to go ahead and capture any supporting documents that might be there as part of the process. So depending on the responses from the borrower, depending on their business structure, entity type, the logic is going to be built in there so that we make sure that we do capture the required supporting documentation that would be there in addition to the application form. So the idea is that we want the applicants to go through the process and make sure that we submit the application correctly the first time. So if there is some type of supporting documentation that's required there, such as the previous year's tax returns, if they do try to proceed without that, the application would stop them until they actually did upload that particular document. As I mentioned before, of course, we do have integration with DocuSign and Adobe to be able to capture the e-signature. So once they're ready to go ahead, sign the application, they can just go ahead and indicate that they would like to use the e-sign ability here. Of course, we do have the ability to simply download the form, which is going to be pre-filled with all the data there, and they would be able to sign it and then upload it back here into the portal. But assuming that most borrowers would like to do the e-sign option, it's pretty easy for them. They would just click on the initiate e-sign button, and then this would go ahead and invoke the DocuSign call here. So right from that same screen, we're going to go ahead and pull up the documents through the DocuSign interface without requiring that the borrower go to their email to get a link, anything like that. They'll just be able to stay in the same screen, adopt their signature, apply it, and then submit the application. Now, of course, once we have that submitted application, all of this data is going to flow into the back office. So here's first kind of a look at the back office interface here. So you can see that we have kind of a tabular format where different categories of information are broken down into different tabs. So on this particular screen, we're just looking at that first tab here, which contains mostly the basic details of the application form. So any of the parties involved, so any entities, individuals that are there, contact information, the ownership structure, all that's going to be there. So all of the data as we're moving through here, you're going to see is basically just mapped here from the application portal itself. So here you can see the responses to the due diligence questions, all the data here regarding if they're operational, franchise information, NAICS code, number of employees. And then we do have the ability here in the back office, if you need to update something, maybe after application submission, you do have the ability from the back office that logic and rules are still there just to make sure we do have the eligibility check here on the application, just to make sure that they are eligible for the PPP loan. We also provide additional fields here that are not on the application form, just in case you as a financial institution want to also capture these fields as part of this application. So you just kind of have a visibility on a lot of data here throughout the whole loan lifecycle. So if you want to capture things like the anticipated closing date, first payment date, the DDA number, things like that, you can go ahead and enter that in here. And now, while we aren't necessarily, as I mentioned, we're not proposing integration with the core here, we do provide fields here throughout the process to really be able to allow you to track all of the data throughout the life cycle of the loan right through Newgen's interface without having to navigate through other systems. So we do provide the ability to capture and enter the disbursement details here, as well as all the loan booking information. So you really have just one consolidated place to view the data throughout the whole PPP loan lifecycle. Right here, I did want to kind of point out, we don't have a screenshot of it here, but we do have the communication tab here. So that those communications are built into the system. So you're going to be able to have system generated communications for things like application submission, things like that, as well as the ability to go ahead and initiate any ad hoc communications that might be there to send out to the borrower. So maybe requests for a document update. So maybe they uploaded the wrong year of the tax return, or maybe one of those documents is incomplete. be able to initiate that request right from the back office without having to leave the Newgen interface. And then all those communications are further tracked in the system and logged in the audit trail. So anyone that comes back and sees that loan application later on will be able to see what has happened so far. Now, after you do all the reviews, due diligence, and do decide at the institutional level that you're ready to go ahead and send this to the SBA. Again, we do have that API-based integration with the SBA to go ahead and push all the information over. And so rather than spending the time to go ahead and manually upload this or enter this data into the SBA portal, which could take 30 or 40 minutes for each loan, you're really able to push this information over in just a matter of seconds. And again, as part of our platform, we do have built-in reporting capabilities. So you're going to have insight onto the number of loans, how many loans are at each stage. You can see that's really helpful here if you're trying to see how many loans are about to be booked, are about to be funded. So really able to break it down there and to loan types, daily reports, things like that. All that data that's in the system, you're able to use for reporting purposes. Now, the next couple slides, I just kind of wanted to highlight a few of the client testimonials they have. So a few of our existing customers that did partner with Newgen throughout the PPP process. So here's one example from Atlantic Union Bank, kind of highlighting how we're really able to help reduce the application submission time, just to really help ensure the efficiency and accuracy of the data submission there. And another quote here from Midwest One Bank, again, talking about how the application submission time was reduced to under a minute and just really assisting them throughout that process. And then one more here before we move on to one of our last slides is from LCNB National Bank, talking about how Newgen's software was really able to enhance their overall efficiency for them and their project with the PPP lending. I kind of just wanted to circle back here and touch on the key factors that were there and see how these kind of map back to Newgen's solution. So certainly speed is there. We're able to have the application, online application form that does the eligibility checks for us. We're able to capture all the documents, and we're also able to go ahead and submit all the data over to the SBA using our API-based integration. User experience is there, so a pretty easy guided borrowing process to provide assistance and checking eligibility to performing the average monthly payroll costs calculations. You're going to have visibility into that process for your customers. Additionally, these are device responsive applications, so those would be able to be submitted, on a laptop, PC, tablet, smartphone. So it makes it pretty easy for borrowers to go through and use it. Now, credibility is certainly there with Newgen. Newgen has partnered with over 35 banks and credit unions throughout the various rounds of PPP lending and forgiveness. So we certainly have a number of clients there using us for the PPP solutions, as well as we do have a number of clients that are there willing to provide a reference for us and on our solutions here. Now, the platform is certainly flexible. It is built on our BPM platform, allows us to go ahead and align the solution to the financial institution's branding guidelines. We're able to react quickly to any updates that are coming from the SBA. So given the nature of our BPM platform, really gives us a lot of agility to provide those updates there. I kind of touched on how we do have the communication abilities there. So event-based messages are there, as well as ability to communicate with the borrowers throughout the process, just keeping them informed and so they understand, what's going on for their PPP loan. Compliance is certainly there. So we do have, again, those form level validations, making sure we're capturing the right data as dictated by the SBA. We're capturing the data in the correct format, and then having the SBA integration, our API-based integration with the SBA really helps to ensure that we're submitting all the data over correctly without data entry errors, without duplicates. So that's very helpful there as well. And just to conclude here, just want to give a quick glance of Newgen as a company, as an organization before we sign off here. For anyone that's not familiar with Newgen, so we are a global organization, and we're not a new player in the market. We have been in the market for 28 years, and we do reach across 69 countries. So we are certainly have a pretty far reach here, being used in multiple countries. Now, while our software is used across many verticals, we really have 5 core verticals that we focus on, with the main one being banking and financial services. So that is where the majority of our revenue comes from. So of those 560 active customers, the vast majority of those are our financial institutions there. And we do have strong industry recognition from analyst firms like Forrester and Gartner. So you are able to go ahead and check us out there if you subscribe to them. And we do have a pretty large workforce. So we have now exceeded over 3,000 employees globally. So that kind of really is a benefit with us. So we do have the ability to leverage our resources globally to be able to react to things like this, like the PPP program, where things are happening quickly. We can leverage those resources really around the clock to go ahead and allow us to go live and react to changes. One last thing to highlight is we do hold 44 patent filings. Just kind of gives a little insight into the commitment of Newgen to continuously develop and improve our platform. Our commitment into our research and development program is certainly there to always kind of move forward to look through new avenues for improvement there. So that's going to go ahead and conclude our webinar for today. Certainly, please go ahead and reach out to us at newgensoft.com for more information, and we can get you in contact with one of our account managers. Thank you for joining.